Good morning. C.W. Johnson Jr. here, and it's November 17th, 2017. And here is what I have been reading lately. I finished The Remains of Company D by James Nelson. That would certainly make a great Band of Brothers type miniseries to introduce modern audiences, or to reintroduce modern audiences to the American experience in the Great War and the sacrifice and bravery of the doughboys and what they experienced over there. Another book I've been reading, it's a very long book, I've got a place saved down here, is The Coldest Winter by David Halberstam. Very long book, about 600 pages, over 600 pages. I usually read about one book a night, or half a book a night. This book, as you see from its length, took me several nights, because I'm a night guard and I have plenty of time to read. Unfortunately, I can't wear my uniform because they're not paying for the advertising, and I can't offer any free advertising, and they might not agree with everything I post. So, unfortunately, as much as I hope you love a man in uniform, I can't be in a uniform for you right now. But I've been reading this book, very long, very good, interesting book about the Korean War, about the bravery of the men there and the sacrifices they made, and the horror of what they experienced there in Korea, the White Hell of Korea. It does get bogged down with a lot of the politics, the Cold War politics, Democrats versus Republicans, and things like that. Theories about MacArthur's ego. He has some of the biographies like MacArthur and Truman do run a little long, and he goes into American foreign policy in Vietnam. So it does get bogged down. There are times I feel like he could have offered a little more information on the actions on the ground, boots on the ground, what they were experiencing. But he did do, when he does get to what they troops on the ground experienced, he does a great job of documenting that. And a lot of great stories in here that could be movies. One would be about Gene Takahashi, Takahshi. He was a Japanese American who was actually in the internment camps during World War II, and then he served in the Army, or Marines. Anyway, he joined the military, and he commanded a regiment of all black troops, or company of all black troops, Love Company. Even though the Army was desegregated, it was still mostly blacks in his company, and they basically bore the brunt of the opening Chinese attack on the army at where was that? Connery, the eastern eastern side of the army side, where the army was in Korea when the Chinese advanced down from Yalu. They bore the brunt of the attack. He also goes into, so that would make it a really interesting story, because he says he got captured at one point, and so he sort of joked about how he had been a prisoner of both the great superpowers of his time, because he had been a prisoner of the United States government during World War II, and during Korea he was a prisoner of the Chinese government. And Halberstam goes into the battles of Camp Toanini and the battles of the Twin Tunnels. These were very important epic battles that stopped the Chinese advance, and basically they're great moral victories for the army, who felt like they had been redeemed from their defeats up in Connery and up in North Korea. It stopped the Chinese advance down into South Korea. So definitely the Battle of Champagnini, and I don't know if that's how you say it, Champagnini and Twin Tunnels. Paul Freeman, those guys, they definitely deserve to have a movie made about them and have that important event in the Korean War remembered. So if you're looking for a good book on the Korean War, I definitely recommend The Coldest Winter. Unusual book I've started is called Scars of Independence, America's Violent Birth by Halger Hock, a German, so not biased at all when it comes to the American Revolution. And it goes into about how violent the American Revolution was, because it was a war. It was basically a civil war, and there was a lot of political violence, lynch mobs, tar and feathering, Indian violence, white on white violence, Indian on white violence, slave violence, black on white violence, white on white violence, all sorts of violence that's going on, and there's atrocities that were committed to the war and which get covered up often in our romanticizing and whitewashing of this period. Very, 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 very important event in American history and in world history, the founding of the United States government and our revolution, our war of independence, which there needs to be a lot more movies about. But, so that's the book I'm reading right now. Very interesting. I just listened to Sergeant Tubby, how a stray dog and his best friend helped win World War I and stole the hearts of a nation, by, well, it's named by Ann Bossom, read by Pam Ward. And this is going to be made into, this has actually been made into a movie called Sergeant Stubby's animated movie. It's coming out next year, I believe, about Sergeant Stubby and the soldier he befriended, Conway. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that, even though I'm never too old to watch a good animated feature. And, you know, it really reminds me of the dog who could fly, Ant, and his relationship with Robert Boziak. And that definitely could be a movie too. Definitely could be a kids movie too. And hopefully one day, if Sergeant Tubby does really well in theaters, maybe we can see the dog that could fly become a movie. I also listened to All of Grace by Charles Spurgeon. Yes, it's very good, enlightening, soul edifying scripture there. And if you're looking for some good philosophical, theological listening, I definitely recommend All of Grace by Spurgeon. And since I'm going down to New Orleans tomorrow for some auditions, I picked up some autobiographies and biographies to listen to, and I picked up Wilson by A. Scott Berg. And I did not realize how long this one was going to be. It's 26 discs, it's 32 hours and 30 minutes, and I haven't gotten through actually got through the introduction. I'm listening to chapter 2 now about his family history, and probably one of the very interesting president, probably one of the worst presidents we ever had, but definitely could see his life being a miniseries. But they need to make a movie about how his second wife, Edith Wharton Wilson, basically ran the White House after he had a stroke, and she was sort of the first one president we ever had, and kind of a house of cards sort of kind of situation going on there. So that's what I've been listening to, watching. I went and saw Goodbye Christopher Robinson. Christopher Robin. I went and saw Goodbye Christopher Robin at the Robinson Center in Shreveport. Great little film there. Great performances by everyone in the cast. The girl who played the maid, the nanny, I think she should get a Academy nomination. But Dillon Gleason, great job. Great film there. Very sad, very interesting. Good look at the culture back then of how rich parents often neglected their kids, and a very beautiful film at the same time. Went and saw Thor. That was a fun film. Not very historical. Wester wanted to include the parts about the 70s pop culture and Norse mythology. So that's what I've been watching, reading, listening to. Fortunately, I'm going to have to work Thanksgiving, so looks like I'm probably going to miss the Macy's Days Parade. So let me know in the comment sections what you've been reading, watching, listening to, and hope to see you again next week. Have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving.